And when we last left off, we were looking at our web browser and we were appreciating the difference between simply having 5 lines of paragraph text on this page and having a little bit more interesting looking block quotes surrounding our text. So how do we modify that? Well, our block quote, the appearance of our block quote, is based on some styles in Bootstrap, but we can write new styles that supersede or go ahead of what we already have in Bootstrap. So here we go. We're going to go to our CSS designer, okay, and we're going to choose styles. We've done it before, we'll do it again. That's where we're saving all of the special rules we want for our website. And we're going to go to global because we want this to affect every view, whether you view it on a mobile device or a tablet device. I'm going to make a little bit more room here. Okay, so we've got styles, we've got global. Now we need a selector. We don't have a way to target this block quote. We don't have something that says, hey, just do this on block quotes. So anytime that we want to create a new rule and we want to apply it, we say, we know we want to target on block quotes, but we need a selector to make that possible, right? When we look at the selectors we've already created, we created a selector for our footer. We created a selector for our section. We haven't used that. We created the selector for our H1, right? Gave it that nice orange kind of offset. So let's create a new selector now for our block quotes. We're going to hit plus, and Dreamweaver comes up with a somewhat extensive suggestion for what our selector should be. We don't need it to be that specific. If you leave this, it will work just fine, but if you hit the up arrow key once on your keyboard, it makes the rule less specific, and if you hit the up arrow key again, it makes it less specific still, and that's fine. If I choose block quote, I'm saying anytime I use a block quote, wherever, this is how I want it to look, and that's okay. So I'm going to hit enter. So now we can set new rules for our block quote, and what we want to do is, first thing we want to do is we want to change the border, and I'm going to click on the border icon, and when I do that here in properties, it takes us right down to our border properties. And let me make a little bit more room here. Let me push our DOM panel down, give us a little bit more room to work with. So again, I want to be looking at my border properties. Okay. So first, we're working with the border on the left, right? That bar that we see, that kind of purplish bar, that's on the left. So we want to address the left border. And for our width, we're going to specify 5 pixels in width. So I clicked on units, and you can see all these different units we have, percentages, points, but we're going to stick with good old pixels, and we're going to put in 5 pixels. Now for the style, we're going to get creative, and rather than using a solid line, we're going to use a dotted line. Okie dokie. And then for the color, well, I'm going to use a color from my color palette that I've selected over here. You can use whatever color you want, and I'm going to let's try sticking with that sort of burnt orange color, and I'm going to hit enter. And let's just go straight ahead and see what this looks like in the web browser. So again, I'm going to click down here and choose Preview in Google Chrome, or you can hit the F12 key. And then Dreamweaver says some files need to be needed to accurately preview this page have been modified but not saved. And what they're saying is they're saying that we've made changes to our styles.css file. And how do I know we've made those changes? Well, because we've been writing a new style rule. But if we look up at the top of the screen in our related files toolbar, we'll see styles.css has an asterisk next to it. So anytime we see a file in Dreamweaver and there's an asterisk next to it, that means that file has been modified, but the changes have not been saved yet. So I'm going to answer yes to this question. And here we go. This is what our page looks like now. Okay? So that little straight up line is now this kind of interesting dotted line, and we're using the same color that we're using for our font. So let's again trace the path of development of this page. So this, we had we got the fancy looking font for the Humble pencil. This one we added in the Bootstrap style of a block quote where we got the nice little gray bar, and then now we've customized it to kind of make it a little bit more appropriate for what we want to do with our website. So we are almost ready to wrap up this section on getting started with the first part of our home page. And we're really taking advantage of what we can do on a modern website. We're going to go through now and we're going to implement one more exciting Bootstrap oriented change. So I'm going to switch to live view, and I'm going to hide my panels. I'm going to do that by in the upper right hand corner clicking my collapsed icons. And I want to make sure that I'm in the largest possible viewpoint, my large viewing range, right? We've got refresh, we've got small, this is extra small, small, medium, and then 1200 pixels and above is large. So I want to be in this large area here, okay? And I'm going to scroll down to where my text is. And I'm going to click on this column that we have here, right here. When I click on this column, I'm clicking on it in the status bar, right? We talked about we have a div that contains a div. It's a box and a box and a box. We have a paragraph. Each paragraph is inside of a block quote. The block quote is contained inside of this column. And remember, we set the column to say that when it's in small, in the small viewport, make it 12 columns wide. So now we're going to change that. So with the column selected, this only works when you're selecting the column, doesn't work when you're selecting the row. With this column selected, we have little handlebars that show up on the right and on the left. This one says resize column, and this one says offset column. If we go to 12, we don't see those. This function is only available on the columns because we've set a size to the columns. We said this column is 12 columns wide because the class of the column is period col, C-O-L means column, SM means small when we're viewing it in the small viewport size, and 12, it's 12 columns wide. We said we want this to be 12 wide. But we're in the large view now, and we can actually make it different for the large view. So what I'm going to do is first, I'm going to start here on the right hand side, and I'm going to drag this resize column, and I can actually make this column smaller. And as I drag this, if you follow along in the upper left hand corner where we see the properties of this column, the width changes from large 11 to large 10. Keep dragging it down to large 9. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop at large 10. So what I've done is I've made this column narrower, right? It used to be 12 columns wide. Why was it 12 columns wide? Because when we started off with it in the small view, we said it's 12. If it's small, if we don't tell the web browser anything different, if it's 12 in the small view, it's 12 in the medium view, it's 12 in the large view. Now, it looks a little goofy because we've got extra space on one side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag on the left-hand side where I have my offset column and start to drag those over. And now I have offset on the left-hand side by one column, right? So my column now has one column of offset, meaning it's going to shift everything over by one column. It's 10 columns wide, and then we have one leftover column. And this is correct, right? Because this is 1, right? This is 10. 1 plus 10 is 11. And then this extra column is another empty space of 1 that adds up to 12. Because in the Bootstrap framework, we can always divide our page up into 12 columns. And this is how we're using our 12 columns. One more time, I'm going to hit the F12 key straight away on the keyboard. Do you want to save changes? I'm going to say, yep. Now let's have a look at that. This is the final version of what we're doing with the top of our web page. All right. This is a previous version where it was kind of wide. This one, we're adding some extra space here. We're just taking advantage of all the extra space here with our web browser when we're in the large view.